In this video, we're going to talk about how to get a great booking ratio for your gym so that the leads that you're generating actually produce an appointment. Or if you decide to generate leads, how to make sure that they produce appointments. So in our last video, we talked about the 5 areas that make the biggest difference in growing a gym and how you can diagnose those areas if you're not sure why your gym isn't growing. And let's imagine that you've identified, okay, we have the ability to generate leads, because anybody does. You hire somebody or you learn how to do it and you start running ads and you have leads. Now, it's not easy to do, but anybody can find someone to generate leads for them. That's not the hard part. The hard part is making sure that they show up and join and stay. And so that is what we're going to talk about. How do we make sure that they show up? How do we get that good booking ratio? Well, the number one thing that I see people doing wrong in this area is not having instant follow-up. Speed to lead is like 80% of getting a good booking ratio. Obviously, the messaging matters and the platform matters, but time between the lead raising their hand and expressing interest and someone connecting with them to book an appointment is the number one factor. The number 2 factor, in my opinion, would be the channel that you use. And any of these top 3, if you miss it on one of these top 3, it's just not going to work. So a lot of people will try phone calls and emails and things like that. Nothing's better than a text message though. If I make 100 outbound dials, I'm likely to connect with 5, maybe 10 people. But almost all the time, when somebody sees a number that they don't recognize, they don't pick up that call, even if they just opted in seconds ago to a thing. So text message is the easiest way to create the initial conversation between you and another person who doesn't know you. And then third and finally would be the type of messaging that you use. If I just say, hey, I see that you're interested in this offer, and then I go into something that someone's not going to answer, or there's not any sort of time, time limit on it, people will just wait on that message. They'll respond to it later. Right? But if you get the right messaging, someone says, ooh, I have to answer that now. So some of the messaging that we like to use indicates time sensitivity. And that would be the third thing that matters most. So number 1, speed to lead. Number 2, primarily use text messages. And of course, follow-up calls and voicemails and emails, those things matter. But the number 1 thing, the thing that's the easiest channel to connect with someone is a text message for that initial connection. And third and finally, make sure that there's some sort of time scarcity so that the person actually responds to this message now instead of saying, oh, that's cool, like I'm gonna answer that later, because that just never happens. So if you do those few things well, those are all the things that it takes to get an excellent appointment booking ratio. Now in the next video, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what it takes to get a really good show ratio and some of the framework that we use to do that well. Now, I have a team that manages follow-up for my 6 studios and for all of the gym owners that we work with all over the US. And what that means is we basically get close to around-the-clock follow-up 7 days a week with real live humans, and we distribute that cost, right? The economies of scale that come from distributing the cost of a really elite follow-up team across, say, 10 locations is tremendous. And so a big part of why my team and I get such a good booking ratio of 70, 80, 90% of the leads that get generated, we book with appointments. If you're doing this yourself and you're not able to watch the follow-up, all week long, all weekend long, weekends, holidays, from early in the morning till late at night, if you're not able to watch it and respond within a minute or less, then a good booking ratio in that world would be like 30 to 50%. Versus if you have a team doing it who's watching it all the time, whether it's my team or I don't know, maybe you have 20 gyms and you can hire a team that just does follow-up. A good booking ratio in this other world would be 70 to 80%, and you should see better than that sometimes. In the next video, I will link to it right here. We're going to talk about how to get a good show ratio, because you don't want to just book the leads, but you want to make sure that they show up. So I will see you in that training video right now.